2 elegant ways to handle rude people. Timeless life lessons from Eleanor Roosevelt you need to hear. The power of grace under pressure. In a world increasingly marked by digital communication and fleeting interactions, rudeness has become an all-too-common experience. Whether it is a curt email from a colleague, a dismissive comment from a stranger, or an aggressive post on social media, encountering rude behavior can leave us feeling disempowered, frustrated, and even questioning our self-worth. Yet, as history has shown us, there are timeless lessons we can draw upon to navigate such moments with dignity and poise. One of the most influential figures in this regard is Eleanor Roosevelt, the longest-serving First Lady of the United States and a trailblazer for human rights, diplomacy, and personal resilience. Her life offers profound insights into how we can respond to rudeness, not by escalating conflict, but by transforming these encounters into opportunities for growth. Turn your screen time into soul-nourishing moments. Join our community by subscribing to Classic Quotes that Inspire. Eleanor Roosevelt was no stranger to adversity. Born into privilege but subjected to loss and hardship early in life, she learned to rise above negativity and embrace challenges with quiet strength. As a public figure, she faced relentless criticism, both personally and professionally. Yet, her ability to remain composed and compassionate in the face of hostility earned her admiration worldwide. Central to her philosophy was the belief that how we react to others ultimately defines who we are. Inspired by her wisdom, this article explores 2 simple yet transformative ways to respond to rude people: maintaining emotional detachment and choosing empathy over retaliation. By delving into Eleanor Roosevelt's teachings, practical examples, and actionable strategies, we will uncover why adopting these approaches not only helps diffuse tension but also fosters deeper connections and personal fulfillment. This journey begins with understanding the importance of grace under pressure, a concept central to Eleanor Roosevelt's enduring legacy. Through her words and actions, she demonstrated that responding to rudeness does not mean engaging in battle. Rather, it means rising above the noise with clarity and purpose. As we delve deeper into her life lessons and their modern-day applications, you'll discover how embracing these principles can empower you to handle difficult situations with confidence and grace. Understanding rudeness, the root causes behind unkind behavior. Before we explore Eleanor Roosevelt's teachings on responding to rudeness, it is essential to understand what drives such behavior. Rudeness often stems from underlying insecurities, frustrations, or unmet needs within the individual displaying it. In many cases, people who act rudely are projecting their own internal struggles onto others, using hostility as a shield against vulnerability. This behavior may manifest in various forms: verbal aggression, passive-aggressive remarks, dismissive body language, or outright insults. And while it can feel deeply personal when directed at us, it rarely reflects our worth. Psychologically speaking, rudeness can be linked to stress, fear, or feelings of inadequacy. For instance, someone experiencing overwhelming pressure at work might lash out at colleagues as a way of venting frustration. Similarly, individuals struggling with low self-esteem may belittle others to temporarily boost their sense of superiority. Socially, cultural norms and power dynamics also play a role. In competitive environments where success is equated with dominance, rudeness can become normalized as a means of asserting authority. On a broader scale, societal issues like inequality, polarization, and lack of empathy contribute to widespread incivility, making it easier for people to disconnect emotionally from one another. The impact of rudeness extends far beyond the immediate interaction. Research shows that being subjected to rude behavior can lead to heightened stress levels, decreased productivity, and even physical symptoms such as headaches or fatigue. Emotionally, it can erode trust, damage relationships, and trigger feelings of shame or anger. However, the real harm lies not just in the act itself but in how we choose to respond. Reacting impulsively, by retaliating, becoming defensive, or internalizing the negativity, only perpetuates the cycle of conflict. Instead, Eleanor Roosevelt teaches us that true strength lies in breaking this pattern through thoughtful, intentional responses rooted in compassion and self-awareness. By reframing rudeness as a reflection of the other person's inner turmoil rather than a judgment of ourselves, we gain valuable perspective. Recognizing that unkind behavior often arises from pain allows us to approach such encounters with greater understanding and patience. This shift in mindset lays the foundation for the two strategies outlined in the following sections: maintaining emotional detachment and practicing empathy. Both approaches align with Eleanor Roosevelt's philosophy of refusing to let external negativity dictate our inner peace, a lesson that remains profoundly relevant today. Emotional detachment. Mastering your inner calm amidst external chaos. One of the most powerful tools Eleanor Roosevelt emphasized for navigating rudeness is emotional detachment, the ability to maintain composure and perspective without allowing another person's behavior to disrupt your inner equilibrium. At its core, emotional detachment does not mean indifference or aloofness. Instead, it involves cultivating a mental space where you observe and acknowledge the situation without letting it hijack your emotions. This practice enables you to respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively, preserving both your dignity and your energy. To achieve emotional detachment, the first step is recognizing that you cannot control another person's actions, but you can control how you interpret and respond to them. When confronted with rudeness, pause before reacting. Take a deep breath, step back mentally, and remind yourself that the other person's behavior is more about them than it is about you. Eleanor Roosevelt famously said, "No one can make you feel inferior without your consent." This statement encapsulates the essence of emotional detachment. Granting someone else the power to upset you is a choice, and one you have the agency to decline. Visualization techniques can also help reinforce this mindset. Imagine placing an invisible shield around yourself during challenging interactions, a barrier that protects your emotions while still allowing you to engage constructively. Picture any harsh words or actions bouncing off this shield, unable to penetrate your calm center. Another effective strategy is reframing negative comments as mere opinions rather than facts. Remind yourself that rudeness often stems from ignorance, insecurity, or misunderstanding, none of which diminishes your inherent value. Practicing mindfulness plays a crucial role in developing emotional detachment. By staying present in the moment, you can avoid spiraling into rumination or catastrophizing over what was said or done. Techniques such as meditation, journaling, or simply focusing on your breathing can anchor you in the here and now, preventing knee-jerk reactions fueled by emotion. Additionally, setting clear boundaries is vital. While emotional detachment encourages non-reactivity, it does not mean tolerating abuse. Politely but firmly communicating your limits ensures that you protect your well-being without stooping to the level of discourtesy. Eleanor Roosevelt exemplified emotional detachment throughout her life. Despite facing relentless criticism from political opponents, media outlets, and even members of her own family, she remained steadfast in her mission to advocate for human rights and equality. Rather than allowing detractors to derail her efforts, she channeled their negativity into motivation to continue doing good work. Her example reminds us that maintaining inner calm amidst external chaos is not only possible but empowering. It transforms potential conflicts into opportunities for personal growth. By mastering emotional detachment, you reclaim your power in difficult situations. You learn to see rudeness for what it truly is, a fleeting disturbance, and refuse to let it dictate your mood or actions. This skill not only enhances your resilience but also sets the stage for the next step, responding with empathy, which we will explore further in the subsequent section. Empathy over retaliation, turning conflict into connection. While emotional detachment provides the foundation for handling rudeness with grace, choosing empathy over retaliation elevates the interaction from mere tolerance to meaningful connection. Eleanor Roosevelt believed deeply in the transformative power of empathy, viewing it not merely as a soft skill, but as a cornerstone of effective leadership and interpersonal harmony. By seeking to understand the motivations and emotions behind another person's rudeness, we open doors to resolution, healing, and mutual respect, even in the most challenging encounters. Empathy begins with active listening, a practice that requires setting aside preconceived judgments and fully engaging with the speaker. When someone behaves rudely, resist the urge to interrupt or counterattack. Instead, listen carefully to their words, tone, and body language. Ask clarifying questions if necessary, such as, "Can you tell me more about what's bothering you?" Or, "I notice you seem upset. Would you like to talk about it? These inquiries signal genuine interest and validate the other person's feelings, even if their delivery was less than ideal. Often, rudeness dissipates when individuals feel heard and understood. Another key aspect of empathetic responses is reframing the situation from the other person's perspective. Consider what might be driving their behavior, whether it's stress, fear, or miscommunication, and approach them with compassion rather than defensiveness. For example, imagine receiving a curt email from a coworker criticizing your performance. Instead of firing back an equally sharp reply, take a moment to reflect. Could they be under pressure from higher-ups? Are they struggling with workload themselves? A response infused with empathy might read, "Thank you for sharing your feedback. I appreciate your honesty. If there's anything specific I can do to improve, please let me know." Such a message acknowledges their concerns while diffusing tension and fostering collaboration. Empathy also involves modeling kindness, even when it feels undeserved. Eleanor Roosevelt once remarked, "It is better to light a candle than curse the darkness." By responding to rudeness with warmth and understanding, you set a positive example that can inspire change in others. Small gestures like offering a sincere apology, even if you weren't entirely at fault, or expressing gratitude for the other person's input, can shift the dynamic dramatically. For instance, if a customer snaps at a service representative, a calm and gracious response, such as, "I'm sorry to hear you're having trouble. Let's see how we can resolve this together," often prompts the customer to soften their stance and cooperate. Real-life stories abound of how empathy transforms hostile situations. Take the case of a teacher who faced persistent rudeness from a particularly disruptive student. Instead of punishing the child, the teacher took time to learn about his background and discovered he had been dealing with significant family upheaval. By showing patience and support, the teacher built trust with the student, who eventually became one of her most engaged learners. Similarly, consider the story of a manager who encountered resistance from an employee during a team meeting. Rather than dismissing the employee's complaints, the manager scheduled a private conversation to address their concerns. This act of empathy not only resolved the issue but strengthened the working relationship moving forward. Choosing empathy over retaliation aligns with Eleanor Roosevelt's belief that every person deserves dignity and understanding, regardless of their behavior. It acknowledges that everyone carries burdens invisible to the outside world, and that extending grace can create ripple effects of positivity. Moreover, responding with empathy reinforces your own character, proving that kindness is not a sign of weakness, but a testament to inner strength. Ultimately, turning conflict into connection through empathy benefits all parties involved. It reduces animosity, builds bridges, and fosters environments where respectful dialogue thrives. By embracing this approach, you honor Eleanor Roosevelt's legacy of compassion and demonstrate that even in the face of rudeness, humanity prevails. Practical steps to implement emotional detachment and empathy. Understanding the principles of emotional detachment and empathy is enlightening, but putting them into action requires deliberate effort and consistent practice. Below are practical steps to help you integrate these strategies into your daily life, ensuring they become natural responses when faced with rudeness. Pause before reacting. When confronted with rude behavior, your initial instinct might be to retaliate or defend yourself. Instead, take a moment to pause. Count to 5 silently, inhale deeply, and exhale slowly. This brief interlude gives you time to process the situation rationally rather than emotionally. During this pause, repeat Eleanor Roosevelt's mantra to yourself: "No one can make me feel inferior without my consent." This reminder reinforces your autonomy and prevents impulsive reactions. Reframe the situation. Shift your focus away from the rudeness itself and toward understanding its root cause. Ask yourself, why might this person be acting this way? Is it stress, insecurity, or perhaps a misunderstanding? Visualize their behavior as a cry for help rather than an attack on you. This cognitive reframing helps you detach emotionally and view the encounter objectively. Use neutral language. When responding to rudeness, choose words that convey neutrality rather than defensiveness. Avoid accusatory phrases like, "You always," or "Why are you so rude?" Instead, opt for statements like, "I noticed you seem upset. Is everything okay?" Or, "Let's find a way to move forward constructively." Neutral language de-escalates tension and invites productive dialogue. Practice active listening. Engage fully with the other person's words, even if their tone is unpleasant. Maintain eye contact, nod occasionally, and paraphrase what they've said to confirm understanding. For example, "So what I'm hearing is that you're frustrated because," demonstrates attentiveness and validates their feelings. Active listening fosters trust and reduces hostility. Set boundaries without escalation. While empathy is crucial, it's equally important to establish boundaries to protect your well-being. If someone continues to behave rudely despite your efforts to diffuse the situation, calmly assert your limits. Say something like, "I want to understand your perspective, but I need us to communicate respectfully." Setting clear boundaries ensures that empathy doesn't devolve into enabling toxic behavior. Reflect after the interaction. Once the encounter has ended, take time to reflect on how you handled it. What worked well? What could you improve next time? Journaling about the experience can provide valuable insights and reinforce positive habits. Additionally, celebrate small victories, such as maintaining composure or responding with kindness, to build confidence in your ability to manage difficult interactions. Seek support when needed. Dealing with persistent rudeness can be draining, so don't hesitate to seek support from trusted friends, mentors, or professionals. Discussing challenging encounters with others offers fresh perspectives and emotional relief. Sometimes, simply venting frustrations to a sympathetic ear can restore your balance and motivation. By incorporating these steps into your daily routine, you'll gradually develop the skills needed to respond to rudeness with grace and empathy. Remember, mastery comes with practice. Each interaction presents an opportunity to refine your approach and embody Eleanor Roosevelt's timeless wisdom. Real-life applications. Stories of transformation through grace and empathy. To truly grasp the transformative power of Eleanor Roosevelt's teachings, let's examine real-life scenarios where individuals successfully applied emotional detachment and empathy to navigate rudeness. These stories illustrate how adopting these principles can turn potentially volatile situations into moments of growth and connection. The restaurant manager and the angry customer. Sarah, a restaurant manager, once faced an irate customer who loudly complained about slow service and demanded a refund. Instead of reacting defensively, Sarah employed emotional detachment by taking a deep breath and reminding herself that the customer's anger wasn't personal. It likely stemmed from hunger or a bad day. She then approached the table with a calm demeanor and said, "I'm really sorry to hear that your experience hasn't been up to par. Can you tell me more about what went wrong so I can make it right?" Her empathetic tone immediately softened the customer's attitude. After addressing the specific issues raised, Sarah offered a complimentary dessert and ensured the remaining meal was expedited. By the end of the evening, the customer apologized for their earlier outburst and praised Sarah's professionalism. This incident not only resolved the conflict but also turned a dissatisfied patron into a loyal advocate for the restaurant. The teacher and the disruptive student. Mr. Anderson, a high school teacher, struggled with a particularly disruptive student named Jake. Jake frequently interrupted class discussions, mocked classmates, and challenged Mr. Anderson's authority. Frustrated but determined to connect, Mr. Anderson decided to apply empathy. He invited Jake to stay after class one afternoon and asked, "Jake, I've noticed you seem restless during lessons. Is there something going on outside of school that's affecting you?" To his surprise, Jake opened up about his parents' recent divorce and the stress it had caused him. Moved by Jake's vulnerability, Mr. Anderson expressed understanding and offered support, suggesting ways to manage classroom distractions while still acknowledging Jake's struggles. Over time, Jake's behavior improved significantly and he began participating positively in class. The bond forged through empathy transformed a challenging relationship into one of mutual respect and cooperation. The workplace misunderstanding. At a corporate office, Lisa found herself at odds with a colleague, Mark, who consistently dismissed her ideas during meetings. Feeling undermined, Lisa initially considered confronting Mark angrily. Instead, she practiced emotional detachment and chose to address the issue privately. In a calm conversation, she shared her observations. "Mark, I've noticed you sometimes disagree with my suggestions without explaining why. It makes me feel like my contributions aren't valued." Mark admitted he hadn't realized how his actions came across and explained that he often felt pressured to critique ideas quickly due to tight deadlines. Together, they devised a plan to communicate more effectively, ensuring both voices were heard. Their collaborative approach not only resolved the tension but also led to innovative solutions for upcoming projects. These examples highlight how applying Eleanor Roosevelt's principles creates tangible, positive outcomes. Whether in customer service, education, or professional settings, responding to rudeness with grace and empathy transforms adversaries into allies and strengthens relationships. Each story underscores the universal applicability of these strategies, proving that no matter the context, compassion and self-control yield lasting results. Challenges and criticisms, navigating the limits of graceful responses. While the principles of emotional detachment and empathy offer powerful tools for responding to rudeness, they are not without their limitations and criticisms. Critics argue that prioritizing grace in every interaction may inadvertently enable toxic behavior or place undue emotional labor on the recipient of rudeness. Understanding these challenges is essential to applying Eleanor Roosevelt's teachings effectively without compromising your well-being. One common criticism is that responding with empathy can be perceived as weakness, especially in competitive environments. For instance, in workplaces driven by hierarchy and ambition, consistently choosing kindness over confrontation might lead others to exploit your goodwill. A manager who repeatedly accommodates disrespectful employees risks undermining their authority and creating a culture of entitlement. Similarly, in personal relationships, excessive empathy can blur boundaries, allowing manipulative individuals to take advantage of your willingness to forgive. Another challenge lies in the emotional toll of maintaining detachment and empathy. Constantly regulating your emotions and seeking to understand others' perspectives can be exhausting, particularly if you're dealing with chronic rudeness. Over time, this can lead to burnout, resentment, or a diminished sense of self-worth. Some critics suggest that Eleanor Roosevelt's emphasis on inner strength overlooks the reality that prolonged exposure to negativity requires external support systems, friends, therapists, or mentors to sustain emotional health. Cultural and contextual factors further complicate the application of these principles. In certain societies or communities, direct confrontation is seen as a sign of honesty and integrity, while passive responses may be interpreted as evasive or insincere. Attempting to respond to rudeness with grace in such settings could result in misunderstandings or escalate tensions. Additionally, systemic issues like racism, sexism, or classism often manifest as targeted rudeness, making it difficult, if not impossible, to separate personal offense from structural oppression. In these cases, responding solely with empathy might fail to address the broader injustices at play. Despite these challenges, Eleanor Roosevelt's teachings remain relevant when adapted thoughtfully. The key is striking a balance between compassion and assertiveness. Practicing emotional detachment doesn't mean tolerating abuse, it means protecting your inner peace while advocating for fair treatment. Likewise, empathy should never come at the expense of your dignity or safety. Setting clear boundaries and seeking support when needed ensures that you uphold Roosevelt's ideals without sacrificing your well-being. By acknowledging these criticisms and adapting her principles to fit diverse contexts, we can continue to honor Eleanor Roosevelt's legacy in ways that are both realistic and impactful. Conclusion: embracing grace and growth through Eleanor Roosevelt's legacy. Throughout this exploration, we have delved deeply into Eleanor Roosevelt's enduring wisdom on responding to rudeness with grace and empathy. Her teachings remind us that how we react to negativity defines not only our character but also our capacity for growth and connection. By practicing emotional detachment, we shield ourselves from the corrosive effects of rudeness, preserving our inner calm and resilience. Simultaneously, choosing empathy over retaliation transforms potentially destructive encounters into opportunities for understanding and healing. Together, these two strategies form a powerful framework for navigating life's inevitable challenges with dignity and purpose. The relevance of Roosevelt's principles extends far beyond historical anecdotes. They offer timeless guidance for modern-day dilemmas. In an era marked by increasing polarization and digital incivility, her lessons resonate more than ever. They challenge us to rise above petty conflicts, reject the temptation to mirror hostility, and instead model the kind of compassion and self-control that inspire change. As demonstrated through real-life examples, adopting these approaches yields tangible benefits, stronger relationships, enhanced communication, and a profound sense of personal empowerment. However, embracing Eleanor Roosevelt's legacy requires commitment and practice. It demands that we confront uncomfortable truths about human nature while striving to see the humanity in others. It asks us to cultivate patience, humility, and courage in equal measure. And it calls upon us to recognize that true strength lies not in domination but in the ability to uplift, even when faced with adversity. As you move forward, carry these lessons with you. When rudeness crosses your path, pause and remember, no one can diminish your worth without your permission. Approach each encounter with curiosity and care, knowing that empathy has the power to transform hearts, including your own. Let Eleanor Roosevelt's life serve as a beacon of hope and inspiration, reminding you that grace under pressure is not just a virtue but a catalyst for meaningful change.